I want to welcome you back to Just the Basics, a 10-step notarization checklist for notaries located in the state of Alabama. I can't believe we are at the end of this series. It has been 10 weeks since we got started, going through a recommended, not mandatory, but recommended checklist to complete a accurate notarization. For those of you who have been with me every step of the way, thank you. I trust that you were able to pick up some new information and adopt some new steps and actions on your part to help you be a better notary public. I don't expect at all for any of you to perform your notarizations the exact same way as I do. It has to be comfortable for you, and you may find that there are some things that you don't want to do or to include, and that's fine. What is important, though, is that you make sure you incorporate all of the mandatory requirements that are outlined in our notary law and also notary best practices. And in this video, I'll be going over the final step in the checklist, step number 10. And we'll get to that in just a moment. But I would like to ask you if you were able to make any changes to the way you handle notarizations. Let me know what you've changed and what you've added in, what you've eliminated. If you could put that in the comment section for me, I would greatly appreciate it. All right, before we get started with step number 10, the wrap up or the last step, I do think it would be a good idea to go ahead and do a quick review. Step number 1, you reviewed the document. You did that in order to determine the type of notarization that the form itself dictates needs to be performed. Remember, not all notarizations are equal. This also gives you an opportunity to decide if you're comfortable performing this type of notarization. And if you aren't, either due to lack of training, due to complexity, due to the fact that you think something's not quite right, this gives you an opportunity to quickly decline the notarization. Remember, here in Alabama, we can decline to notarize, but we can't decline if we are discriminating against someone based on their religion, their race, their ethnicity, their gender or gender identity, or disability. Those 5 things will get us into legal trouble. But all of the other objective, reasonable, and rational reasons are acceptable. Step number 2, that's where you verify the signer's identity. And you learned that there are only 2 methods that Alabama allows us notaries to verify a signer's identity: personal knowledge and one form of government issue ID. We also learned in step number 2 that we need to slow down and spend at least 10 to 15 seconds minimum studying, reviewing the ID card, and then comparing the photograph of the signer, the physical description of the signer, and the signer's signature, comparing that information to the person appearing in front of us in order to make sure that it's a match. In step 3, this is where I recommended that you calculate and confirm what your notary fee will be so that the signer is not surprised at the end of the notarization. Remember, it is now a crime for Alabama notaries to overcharge a signer when calculating notary fees. So it's better to undercharge than overcharge. I'll talk more about the notary fee when we get to step number 10. Step 4, we learned about the importance of performing verbal ceremonies. Now, I'm not just talking about the oath and affirmation. We discussed other questions you should be asking the signer. And unfortunately, what I have found as someone who has her signature notarized at least once or twice a week for other work that I perform, very few, if any, notaries are taking the time to perform step number 4. They're not placing me under oath. They're not asking me anything about the document, whether I understand what I'm signing, or whether I'm doing so voluntarily or not. The verbal ceremony, including the oath and affirmation, are not optional. These are mandatory steps in the notarization process. Step number 5 is the notary journal. It doesn't matter that the state of Alabama makes it optional for us notaries to use a notary journal. We need to do it anyway. Look, Alabama doesn't require me to lock my front and back doors at night and when I leave home during the day, but guess what? I do it anyway. Why? It makes sense. Why? I want to protect my belongings and protect my safety. All of the notary experts agree keeping a notary journal benefits primarily the notary public. If you haven't been keeping a record of the notarizations you perform, I implore you to start doing so today. Step number 6, verify the signer's signature. You want to watch signers when they are signing the document. You want to watch signers when they are signing their name in your journal. You also want to make sure that you take a moment and compare the signature of the signer in your journal to the signature that is on the ID card that they hand you. Step number 7, complete the notary block or the notary certificate. Notaries, slow down and read through the notary block before you start filling in the blanks. You'll be less likely to make a mistake if you slow down, read through it. You'll better understand whether your name goes in the blank or if the signer's name goes in the blank. Also, regarding the notary block or the notary certificate, keep this in mind. After you fill in the information, when done correctly, the notary block should answer the following questions: who, what, when, where, why. That's the real purpose of a notarization. Once it's done and the document goes back to the company or the person to complete the transaction, they're looking for the who, what, when, where, and why. Who? That certificate will answer the signer's identity, who signed the form. And it implies that, or it confirms that the signer's identity was verified by the notary using Alabama's approved methods. When I say who, I'm also referring to the notary, who the notary public is, and that notary certificate or the notary block will also show the notary's commission credentials, their official seal, their commission expiration date, their formal official signature. All of that tells the person receiving the document who the notary is. What? The what pertains to the type of notarization that was performed. Remember, you're picking up on that what back in step number 1 when you review the document. But again, the notary block tells everyone what type of notarization you performed. And it's imperative that you perform the right type of notarization. Where the notary and the signer met, the location. That information is contained in the venue section of the notary block. When? A notary certificate must always include the date of the notarization. And occasionally, a notary block might even ask for the time. And when writing in the date, again, remember, ideally, it should be day, month, year. And then finally, why. The way the why gets answered, it's verbally. When you, the notary, sign your name in the notary block, it is assumed that you perform that verbal ceremony so that you're certain that the signer understood why they were signing the form and the purpose of the form. That was step 7. Step number 8, the notary signature and seal. It's so important to make sure that your signature, your official seal, and commission information is all legible when making a notarization, completing a notarization. And remember, if it isn't legible, then you need to correct it. And speaking of corrections, step number 9, we talked about the importance of checking your work so that you can detect your errors or anything you omitted and fix the problem, fix the mistake. Remember, you don't have to be perfect, but you are expected to find your mistakes and fix your mistakes before someone else does. And now we're at step number 10, and there are just a few things that we're going to cover in step number 10. You see, at this point, the notarization is complete. Everything has been signed, checked. You're ready to hand the document back to the signer. I've decided, and I did this early on in my career as a notary, to wait until the end of the appointment to ask for payment. It's more of a personal preference. I don't like someone asking me to pay them before they complete the service. When I go to the grocery store, I don't want to pay up front because I might change my mind about something. When I go to a restaurant, I guess that's not a good example. If it's a nice restaurant, we wait till we've eaten and pay at the end, because if I wasn't satisfied with the service, I may be looking for a discount. And so I wait to the end. Not everyone does. If I did live in a high crime community where I was concerned about the signer leaving before making payment, then I would handle it differently. So for me, step 10 includes collecting payment. I accept most methods of payment. You choose what works best for you: cash, credit, debit, checks, Zelle, PayPal, Cash App. That's up to you. I would, if I were you, check with your city or county authorities before adding any service fees for accepting, let's say, credit card, debit card. I don't know the rules around that. You may have some businesses or companies that want to use you on a regular basis and may want you to invoice them. Don't be surprised by that. If it's a company, that might be a requirement. And so you'll need to find out a way to do invoicing. Again, this would be when you're expecting repeat service or doing notarizations on a regular basis. And If you are asked to send an invoice, you may also be asked to complete and provide the company with a W-9 form. This is an IRS tax form. You can go on irs.gov to find the W-9. You fill it out and send it with your invoice. Some organizations will not be able to pay you without a W-9. It's important that you issue a receipt. It's not a requirement, but it is for those of you who are acting as a notary business. If you're working just as a notary, I'm going to leave that up to you. It's not in the code that says we have to issue receipts. I do. And I make sure that I itemize what the notary fee is and separate it from any other fees. And I count up, and you should count up the number of notarial acts, notary acts, times $10. If you got in your vehicle and traveled to meet the signer, Alabama does allow us to charge a travel fee. Alabama does not stipulate how much we can charge for travel. My professional recommendation to you is that it be reasonable. You may be asked to provide additional services, and you may choose to charge a fee for those additional services. Printing documents, mailing notarized documents, photocopying IDs and documents. Again, make sure you itemize all of this in your receipts. When you're ready to leave the appointment, make sure you collect all of your items, your supplies, your journal, your seals, embossers, and stamps. If you notarize at work, make sure that you secure all of your documents, including your journal. They all should be under lock and key when you're not using them. You will be presented with confidential documents describing confidential situations. It's really important that you don't go home and talk about it with friends and family. It's even more important that you do not share this information on social media. You could be sued by the signer for disclosing private information. I think you'll be surprised with some of the documents and information that you'll be seeing. And it's just imperative that you act in a professional manner at all times. Ask your signers before you leave if that completes everything, if they have any questions or concerns. If you're running a notary business, ask them if they'd be willing to leave a review for you and encourage them to use you again. I would leave those steps out if you are conducting a signing agent appointment, a loan closing. If you have signed an agreement with the hiring party that you will not ask for reviews and contact their clients in the future. Other than that, that completes step 10 of the notarization checklist. And I want to congratulate those of you who have completed all 10 steps of just the basics. I hope you found this information informative. Again, let me know in comments what steps you're going to adopt, which ones you aren't. Let me know why. I'd love to have that conversation with you in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, and be sure to check out my other videos. And I hope you'll continue to be a subscriber. Have a great day.